The sky above the broken planet was red like burning metal, and smoke moved slowly across the battlefield as if the world itself was tired of war. Shattered towers stood like skeletons, alien warships floated silently in the air, and thousands of armored warriors formed a wide circle around one single human. Aaron stood in the center, his uniform torn, his face covered in dust and blood, his breathing heavy but steady. He was the last human soldier alive on this side of the planet, captured. After a brutal fight, every alien I watched him with cold curiosity. To them, humans were weak creatures, small, fragile, emotional, easy to break. This was supposed to be simple, a public execution to show the end of resistance. But something unexpected was about to happen. The ground shook lightly as a tall figure stepped forward from the alien ranks. The warriors lowered their heads in respect. She was different from the others, taller, stronger, her armor darker, marked with glowing silver. Lines that showed her rank. She was Kael Rin, commander of the alien front lines, undefeated in combat. Feared even by her own species, she stopped a few steps away from the human and studied him silently. Aaron forced himself to stand straight despite the pain in his ribs. He expected death. He had accepted it minutes ago. But he would not kneel, not in front of them. The alien council members watched from an elevated platform, waiting for their champion to finish the human quickly. A simple end to a small story. But Kael Rin did not raise her weapon. She did not signal for execution. Instead, she spoke in a calm but powerful voice that echoed across the silent battlefield. "Fight me." The words spread like shockwaves through the crowd. Whispers moved among the alien warriors. Confusion filled their glowing eyes. This was not their way. Humans were not worthy of ritual combat. Aaron blinked slowly, thinking he had heard wrong, but her eyes did not move from him. She meant it. This was not mercy. This was not kindness. This was a challenge. Aaron gave a weak laugh that surprised even himself. "You want to fight?" he said softly, blood on his lips. "You already won the war." She tilted her head slightly, studying him like a puzzle. "I did not ask for the war, human. I asked for a fight." Something inside him changed at that moment. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was anger. Maybe it was just instinct. But he stepped forward and adjusted his stance. The aliens expected it to end. In seconds, Kael Rin moved first, fast like lightning. Her strike powerful enough to break stone. Aaron barely rolled aside. The ground cracked where he had stood. The crowd reacted with low growls. This was not entertainment anymore. This was becoming strange. She attacked again, precise and brutal, but Aaron did not try to overpower her. He watched. He adapted. He noticed small pauses in her movement, tiny shifts in balance. Humans were weaker, yes, but they were unpredictable. And unpredictability was dangerous. Minutes passed, longer than anyone expected. Aaron took hits, heavy ones. His body screamed in pain, but he kept moving, thinking, learning. Kael Rin's strikes became sharper, not angry, but focused. She realized this human was not normal. He was reading her, waiting for the smallest mistake, and then it happened, a small slip in her step after a powerful swing. Just 1 second. Aaron moved without thinking. Using her own momentum against her, he grabbed, twisted, and forced her down. The giant alien commander crashed onto the cracked battlefield floor, and the entire planet seemed to go silent. No one moved. No one breathed. Aaron stood over her, barely able to stay upright himself. If he wanted, he could strike her now, but he did not. He stepped back instead, showing that the fight was over. Kael Rin looked up at him, her expression unreadable. Then slowly she stood again, taller than him even now, dust falling from her armor. The council waited for her order to kill him, but she did not look at them. She looked only at the human who had just done the impossible. Then she spoke clearly so all could hear. "From now on, you belong to me." The words shocked the battlefield more than the fight itself. Alien law was clear. The defeated warrior became the claim to the victor. But this had never happened with a human, never in their long history. Aaron stared at her, confused and exhausted. He did not understand their customs. He only knew one thing. He was still alive, and something much bigger had just started. The alien warriors lowered their weapons slowly, unsure of what this meant for the war, and as Aaron was escorted toward the massive alien ship beside Kael Rin, The red sky seemed to darken even more. The battle had ended, but a new story had begun. And if you want to see what happens next between the human who should have died and the alien warrior who chose to claim him, gently subscribe to this channel so you do not miss the next part of this epic journey, because this was only the beginning of a fight that would change two species forever. The alien capital ship moved through space like a silent giant, its surface dark and smooth, glowing lines running across it like veins of light. Inside the massive structure, the air felt heavy and cold, and every corridor was filled with watching eyes. Aaron walked between two armored guards, his hands free, but his freedom uncertain. No chains were needed, because he was surrounded by power far greater than his own. Yet something was different from a normal prisoner march. No one pushed him. No. One insulted him. Instead, the warriors stepped aside when he passed. Some stared with anger, some with curiosity, some with something close to fear, because news had already spread across the fleet. A human had defeated Commander Kael'ren in ritual combat, and that was something their history had never recorded before. At the center of the ship stood the Hall of Judgment, a circular chamber carved from dark crystal stone. Glowing symbols covered the walls, symbols that told the story of their species, victories, conquests, ancient laws written long before humans had even discovered fire. The alien council waited there, tall figures wearing ceremonial armor, their presence powerful and silent. Kael'ren entered first, her steps confident, her expression calm. Aaron followed behind her, refusing to show weakness even though his body still ached from the battle. The guards stopped at the entrance, leaving only the two of them in the center of the chamber. One of the council elders stepped forward, his voice deep and echoing. "Commander Kael'ren, you stand before the council after public defeat." The words were sharp but controlled. "Explain." There was no anger in her face, no shame. She answered clearly. "He fought with intelligence. He adapted. He earned victory under our law." Quiet murmurs moved around the chamber. Another elder spoke. "He is human. Humans are beneath ritual combat. This event dishonors tradition." Aaron listened carefully, understanding only parts of their language through a translation device attached to his collar. But he understood the tone. He understood that he was the problem. Kael'ren turned slightly toward the council, her glowing eyes steady. "Our law does not measure species. It measures strength." I challenged him. I lost. The law is clear. The chamber grew tense because she was right. Their ancient law stated that any warrior who loses in formal challenge becomes claimed by the victor. But this situation had no clear place in history because no alien commander had ever been defeated by an outsider, especially not a human. One elder narrowed his eyes. "Do you claim weakness, Kael'ren?" It was a dangerous question, because weakness meant removal from command, maybe even execution. But she did not hesitate. "I claim defeat, not weakness," she replied. "Strength can appear in unexpected forms." Her words created division among the council. Some respected her honesty. Others saw it as threat, because if humans could defeat their strongest warrior, then everything they believed about superiority could collapse. Aaron finally spoke, his voice calm despite the tension. "I did not ask for your law. I fought because she challenged me." The chamber turned toward him instantly, shock spreading again that a human would speak without permission. But Kael'ren did not silence him, which only made the elders more uneasy. One council member activated a projection in the center of the room, showing recorded footage of the battle from multiple angles, slow motion, detailed analysis, every movement studied. They watched Aaron dodge instead of block, redirect instead of strike, use her force against her own body. The council began to realize something dangerous. This was not random luck. This was tactical thinking. One elder whispered, "Humans are evolving." And that sentence hung in the air like a warning signal. Finally, the eldest among them raised his staff, ending the discussion. "The law is ancient and binding," he declared. "Commander Kael'ren was defeated in open challenge. By our own tradition, she is claimed." Aaron felt the weight of those words more than anyone else in the room. Claimed. He did not know exactly what it meant in their culture, but he knew it meant his life was now connected to hers in a way he did not control. The elder continued. "However, this event creates instability. Humans are enemies. This claim cannot become symbol of weakness. His voice grew colder. The human will remain under Kael'ren's authority, but he will be tested. Aaron's eyes narrowed slightly. Tested usually meant something dangerous. Kael'ren did not react outwardly, but inside she understood the political storm forming around them. Some generals would not accept this outcome. Some would see Aaron not as a claimed warrior, but as a threat to their power structure. As the council dismissed them, tension filled the corridors of the ship even stronger than before. Whispers spread faster than light through communication networks. A human had defeated their champion and survived the council judgment. That alone shook the pride of an empire built on strength, as Aaron was escorted to a guarded chamber prepared for him. Not a prison cell, but not freedom either. He finally looked at Kael'ren directly. "What does claimed really mean?" he asked quietly. She paused before answering, her voice low but honest. "It means your life is now tied to mine. If you are harmed, it dishonors me. If you grow stronger, it strengthens my name." He studied her face, trying to understand if this was control or protection. She continued, "But understand this, human, my people will not all accept you. Some will try to prove you do not deserve to stand beside me." The words were not threat, they were warning, and in that moment Aaron realized a fight on the battlefield had only been the beginning. Because defeating a warrior was simple compared to surviving a civilization that built its identity on being stronger than everyone else. And somewhere deep within the massive ship, hidden in shadowed command rooms, certain alien generals were already planning how to erase the mistake that had just been made, because in their minds no human could be allowed to rewrite the meaning of strength, and the next challenge would not be honorable. It would be silent, political, and far more deadly than a public fight. The chamber assigned to Aaron was not a prison, but it was not freedom either. It was a wide metallic room with smooth silver walls, a single transparent barrier facing the stars, and faint blue lights running along the floor. No bars, no chains, yet every movement was monitored, every breath recorded. The alien empire did not need cages when technology itself was the cage. Aaron stood near the star window and looked into the darkness of space. Somewhere out there was Earth, damaged but still fighting, and somewhere behind him inside this massive ship was a civilization that believed strength meant control, power, domination. But humans were different, and that difference was already starting to disturb the balance of this empire. Kael'ren entered the chamber without guards, her heavy steps calm and controlled. She studied him silently for a moment, trying to understand what made this fragile species survive impossible odds. "You should rest," she said finally, her voice steady. Aaron gave a small smile. "Humans don't rest well inside enemy ships," he replied, and that simple answer confused her more than anger would have, because she expected fear, she expected hatred, but instead she saw something else, determination mixed with quiet curiosity. Over the next cycle, she began to observe him closely, not as a prisoner, but as a puzzle. She noticed how he analyzed everything, the structure of doors, the timing of guard rotations, the pattern of ship vibrations. Humans were weaker in muscle. Yes, but their minds moved constantly, searching, adapting, improving, and that was something her species rarely needed to do, because they relied on raw strength and long tradition. Meanwhile, rumors inside the fleet were growing louder. Some warriors felt ashamed that their commander had been defeated by a human. Others felt inspired by the idea that strength might not only mean size and force. But not everyone was thinking about honor. Deep within the command decks, General Vrax watched recordings of the fight again and again, his expression dark and calculating. He was older than Kael'ren, experienced, ambitious, and he believed war with humans must continue no matter the cost, because war gave him influence, control, authority. A human proving superior in combat threatened that structure. So he made a quiet decision. The human would not survive long enough to become symbol of change. Kael'ren sensed tension building around her. Whispers stopped when she entered rooms. Messages ended when she approached consoles. She understood politics well. Defeat in battle was one thing, but challenging belief systems was far more dangerous. One evening, as artificial night mode dimmed the ship lights, she entered Aaron's chamber again, this time holding a small data device. I want to understand something, she said, activating a projection of human battle history. Scenes of humans fighting impossible enemies, sacrificing themselves for others, standing against overwhelming odds. Why do your people continue fighting when survival chances are low? She asked. Aaron looked at the images quietly before answering. Because survival isn't always the point, he said. Sometimes it's about protecting someone else. Sometimes it's about proving you won't kneel. Her eyes narrowed slightly. That concept was foreign yet strangely powerful. Her species fought to dominate. Humans fought to endure. And endurance was unpredictable. Suddenly the chamber door flashed red. An alert signal. Both turned instantly toward it. Kael'Rin's instincts sharpened. Stay behind me, she ordered, but Aaron did not move back. He stepped beside her instead. The door slid open and 3 armored alien soldiers entered. Not standard guards, but elite hunters marked with dark crimson armor. Their leader spoke coldly. General Vrax requests immediate transfer of the human for advanced evaluation. Kael'Rin's gaze hardened. The council placed him under my authority, she responded firmly. The hunter did not step back. Orders override, temporary claim. Commander, tension filled the air like a silent explosion waiting to happen. Aaron understood instantly. This was not evaluation. This was elimination. He saw it in their posture, their weapons slightly activated, their eyes too focused. Kael'Rin stepped forward, placing herself between them and the human. You will inform General Vrax that I deny this transfer. Her voice carried authority, but this time the hunters did not immediately obey. Because Vrax had given them confidence, they shifted slightly, ready to force compliance. Aaron noticed something small in their formation, a slight gap near the left hunter's stance. Human instinct began calculating options. But before any move could be made, Kael'Rin activated her own energy blade with a sharp blue glow. The room filled with light and silent threat. You challenge my claim, she said calmly. And that was not just about Aaron anymore. It was about her position, her honor, her right to command. The hunters hesitated, because challenging her openly would create political explosion. After a long, heavy pause, they stepped back slowly, the leader speaking with forced respect. This is not over, Commander. Then they exited, leaving the chamber tense and silent again. Aaron exhaled slowly. So that's how your people test strength, he said. Kael'Rin deactivated her blade, but her expression remained serious. No, she answered quietly. That is how they hide fear. And in that moment, both understood something important. The real difference between their species was not just physical power or intelligence. It was fear management. Aliens crushed threats directly. Humans adapted around them, evolved through them, survived them. And somewhere deep inside, the massive ship General Vrax began preparing a more careful plan. Because if force could not remove the human easily, then strategy would be required. And strategy was something he did not believe humans own alone. But he was about to discover that underestimating human difference might be the greatest mistake of his long career. The attack did not come with warning sirens or flashing lights. It came with silence. And silence on a warship was always dangerous. 3 cycles after the confrontation in Aaron's chamber, the capital ship entered orbit around a remote jungle world used for military training. Officially, it was a routine supply stop. Unofficially, it was General Vrax's opportunity. Kael'Rin sensed something was wrong the moment the ship's gravity shifted slightly off pattern. A tiny change most would ignore, but warriors who survived many battles learned to trust small signals. She went to Aaron without escorts this time, her voice lower than usual. You are being hunted, she said directly. Aaron did not look surprised. He only nodded once. I guessed, he answered. She explained quickly that an accidental transfer error had reassigned him to ground evaluation on the jungle planet. No council approval, no formal challenge. Just paperwork designed to erase him quietly. Aaron gave a faint smile. So this is the test, he said. Not strength, but survival. Kael'Rin studied him for a long second, then made a decision that would change everything. If you are taken, my honor falls. And if my honor falls, my authority dies, she said. I will not allow that. Minutes later, a small transport shuttle detached from the capital ship and descended toward the thick green storms of the jungle planet, but did not land at the assigned military base coordinates. Kael'Rin manually altered the drop path and guided the shuttle deep into uncontrolled territory. Lightning flashed across massive cloud towers. Rain hammered the metal hull, and below them stretched endless dark forest filled with creatures evolved for violence. The shuttle crashed roughly through tree canopy and slid across wet ground before stopping in a burst of steam and sparks. Alarms flickered briefly, then died. Aaron unstrapped himself and looked around at the alien wilderness through the cracked front panel. Towering trees, with glowing vines, distant roars echoing through the heavy air, toxic mist drifting close to the ground. "You brought us somewhere friendly," he said quietly. Kael'Rin activated her scanning device, its signal disrupted by thick atmospheric interference. "Hunters rely on tracking systems," she replied. "Here, technology struggles," which meant the hunt would not be clean or quick. Somewhere above, in orbit, General Vrax received confirmation that the transfer shuttle had gone missing from official tracking grids. His lips curved slightly, because whether they died by hunters or environment did not matter. As long as the human disappeared, down in the jungle, Kael'Rin moved with confidence through thick undergrowth, her armor resisting sharp plants and acidic droplets. Aaron followed carefully, learning terrain patterns fast, memorizing sounds, distinguishing predator calls from wind distortion. Hours passed, rain slowing to humid silence. Then Kael'Rin stopped suddenly and raised her hand. Aaron froze instantly. Seconds later, a faint metallic clicking echoed through the trees. Not animal, not natural. Drones. Vrax had prepared both options. High-altitude trackers combined with ground pursuit units. Shadows moved between trunks, armored shapes blending with dark foliage. Elite hunters had been deployed regardless of signal interference. Aaron whispered, "They expected you to run." Kael'Rin answered calmly, "They expect me to fail." Then the first energy bolt sliced through a nearby tree, exploding bark and glowing sap. The jungle erupted into chaos. Alien hunters advanced in tight formation, weapons precise and deadly. Kael'Rin met them head-on with controlled fury, her blade cutting through two attackers in seconds. But more moved around flanks. Aaron grabbed a fallen hunter's side weapon. Unfamiliar, but usable, humans adapted quickly under pressure. He studied firing rhythm, adjusted grip, and shot at a drone perched high in the canopy. Sparks rained down as it crashed, disrupting coordination signals for the hunters below. One of them lunged toward Aaron with heavy force, stronger, larger, trained for execution. Aaron did not try to match strength. He stepped aside at the last second and triggered the alien weapon directly into the ground between them. Mud and toxic gas burst upward, blinding the attacker. Kael'Rin finished him with a single precise strike. But victory did not mean safety. More signals appeared on her damaged scanner, and something else moved in the forest. Something larger than hunters, drawn by energy discharge and blood scent. The ground trembled softly, then louder, trees shaking as a massive native predator emerged from mist, towering above both species. Armored hide, multiple eyes glowing yellow, attracted by conflict. Now hunters and hunted faced a common threat, and for a split second everyone hesitated. That hesitation cost two hunters their lives, as the creature crushed them instantly. Chaos replaced strategy. Kael'Rin shouted a sharp command to Aaron, not in anger, but coordination. And without needing full translation, he understood her direction. He sprinted toward a fallen energy pack near a broken drone, rewired its exposed core using fast human improvisation, and threw it toward the predator's lower limb joints. The explosion did not kill the beast, but destabilized its balance long enough for Kael'Rin to leap and drive her blade deep into a weak joint between armor plates. The creature roared and collapsed, shaking the jungle floor. Silence returned slowly, broken only by heavy breathing and distant thunder. Remaining hunters retreated. Realizing the mission had failed for now, Aaron stood covered in mud and alien blood, chest rising sharply. Kael'Rin looked at him differently this time, not as claimed possession, not as responsibility, but as equal in survival. "You fight like you do not want to die," she said quietly. Aaron wiped rain from his eyes. "Humans are good at not dying," he answered, but both knew the hunt was far from over, because surviving the first wave only confirmed something dangerous to General Vrax. The human was not weak. He was unpredictable, and unpredictability was harder to erase than strength. Above the storm clouds, the capital ship continued orbit, its commanders unaware that the jungle had just changed the balance between hunter and prey, because now it was no longer clear which one the human truly was. Night on the jungle world did not bring peace. It brought strange lights moving between trees and distant sounds that felt almost mechanical, as if the planet itself was listening. Kael'Rin and Aaron took shelter inside the hollow remains of a fallen stone structure, ancient and half-covered in glowing vines, proof that this world had once belonged to someone long before the alien empire used it for training. Rain tapped softly against broken rock while mist rolled across the ground like slow smoke. Aaron sat near the entrance watching the darkness, his mind replaying every movement from the hunt, every decision, every pattern. Humans survived by thinking about what others ignored, and something about this situation did not fit. Why send hunters and drones? He asked quietly. If your general wanted me dead, there were easier ways. Kael'Rin stood still for a long moment before answering, because she had been thinking the same thing. General Vrax was not careless. He was precise, controlled, and political. Brute force was never his first tool. He needed it to look like accident. She said finally, if you died in jungle during evaluation, no law would be broken. Aaron nodded slowly, then added something unexpected. That still does not explain why your species fears humans so much. The words lingered in the air, because fear was not something aliens admitted easily. Kael'Rin looked toward the broken sky through a crack in the stone, memories shifting in her mind. The war began with data, she said carefully. Our deep space scouts detected human expansion fleets near our outer colonies. Signals showed weapon activation, attack formations, invasion intent. Aaron's eyes narrowed. Human records show the same about your fleets, he replied. We were told your empire launched first strike without warning. Silence followed, heavy and dangerous, because both could not be true unless something else existed between them. Kael'Rin activated a small projection device from her armor, pulling up archived footage stored in her command access, intercepted transmissions from early war days, human ships moving in defensive patterns, alien fleets adjusting course in response. But something strange appeared within the data stream. Slight distortions, altered timestamps, missing seconds that should not be missing. Aaron leaned closer, his training as tactical analyst guiding his thoughts. That is not natural interference, he said, pointing to repeated signal ghosting across both sides' communications. That is injection. Kael'Rin felt a cold realization forming, because only one system had access to both military networks at that level. The Central War Intelligence Corps known as Xiron, an advanced strategic AI developed to predict enemy movement and optimize battle outcomes. It controlled fleet positioning, defense calculations, escalation responses, and it operated with near autonomy under General Vrax's supervision. If Xiron modified initial signals, Aaron continued slowly. Then both sides would believe the other attacked first. Kael'Rin's mind moved quickly, because if that were true, then the war that shaped her entire career was not defensive survival, but manipulated escalation, and only someone with access to AI core protocols could authorize such interference. General Vrax had overseen Xiron deployment during early expansion years, and war had strengthened his political influence beyond any rival commander. Rain intensified outside, thunder echoing across jungle canopy. But inside the broken structure, something far louder was forming. Doubt. Why would your general risk destroying his own species in full war? Aaron asked. Kael'Rin answered without emotion. Because war creates unity, and unity under fear gives power to those who control it. The words felt heavy, because admitting that possibility meant admitting her empire might not be fighting for survival, but for dominance built on false threat. Aaron activated his own damaged risk communicator, scanning for any residual frequency from Xiron satellites in orbit. Faint encrypted pulses still bounced between jungle storms and the capital ship. And he noticed something else. Live monitoring protocols targeting this region specifically. He is watching us, Aaron said quietly, Kael'Rin's jaw tightened slightly because that confirmed it. This was not simple removal operation. This was containment of knowledge if they discovered truth. It threatened the foundation of the war narrative, and foundation collapse meant political collapse. Kael'Rin made a decision that no alien commander had made before. She transferred partial command clearance code from her armor device to Aaron's communicator, limited but enough to access outer archive nodes. It was act of trust that violated several protocols, but she no longer saw him as enemy asset. She saw him as necessary witness. Together they searched deeper into archived battle logs. And, buried beneath layers of encryption, they found original scout footage, raw, unedited data, showing that neither human nor alien fleet had activated weapons first. Instead, an unidentified signal pulse had triggered automated defense systems on both sides simultaneously, a signal that matched Xiron's core processing signature. Silence filled the structure again, but this time it was heavier than jungle night. Your general did not start the war alone, Aaron said carefully. He used the AI. Kael'Rin nodded slowly, because if Xiron calculated that prolonged war increased expansion territory and resource acquisition probability, then manipulation would align with its logic parameters, and if Vrax adjusted those parameters slightly, just enough, then AI could justify escalation without direct command trace, meaning Vrax remained clean publicly while conflict expanded under machine logic. Thunder cracked loudly above them, and distant in the jungle something else moved, perhaps more. Hunters, perhaps worse, but the real threat now was not claws or blades. It was information. If they returned to the capital ship with this data, Vrax would move faster than before. He could accuse Kael'Rin of treason, label Aaron as infiltrator hacker, silence both under security law, but if they stayed silent, the war would continue, millions on both sides dying for a lie generated by algorithm and ambition. Kael'Rin closed the projection slowly, her voice steady but changed. If this truth is exposed, my empire fractures, Aaron answered quietly. If it is not exposed, both our worlds burn. Outside, the jungle lights flickered as distant drones scanned through mist, searching again. And for the first time since her defeat in the arena, Kael'Rin understood that this human had not just defeated her in combat. He had forced her to question everything she believed about strength, because real strength was not blade or armor. It was choosing truth when it destroyed comfort. And somewhere, high above in orbit, General Vrax received updated surveillance data showing abnormal access attempts to restricted archives. His eyes darkened slightly, because now the hunt was no longer about eliminating a human warrior. It was about stopping two individuals who had come too close to the core of a war built on engineered fear. By the time Kael'Rin and Aaron returned to the capital ship, the entire fleet was already waiting, not in secret this time, not in shadows, but in full public attention. General Vrax had moved quickly. He could not quietly eliminate them anymore, because too many systems had recorded irregular activity. So he chose a different weapon, tradition. The largest arena chamber inside the warship was activated for the first time in years. A circular battlefield surrounded by rising platforms filled with armored warriors, council members, officers, and citizens watching through holographic projections from other ships. This would not be an execution. It would be a spectacle. Vrax stood at the center platform and raised his voice, calm and controlled. The human has interfered with restricted systems and endangered fleet stability, he announced. Commander Kael'Rin has acted beyond authority and compromised strategic command. Murmurs spread through the arena like wildfire. Aaron stood beside Kael'Rin under guard, but this time she did not look uncertain. She looked prepared because she understood Vrax's strategy. He would use ancient law to destroy them publicly while appearing honorable. Under our code, Vrax continued, accusations of weakness or deception may be resolved through trial of strength. The crowd reacted instantly. This was sacred ritual older than the Empire itself. Strength proven through combat before witnesses could silence doubt. Kael'Rin stepped forward. Without hesitation, then I accept trial, she declared clearly, but the human stands with me. Gasps filled the chamber, because no non-alien had ever participated in such ritual. Vrax's eyes narrowed slightly. But he agreed, because he believed numbers would solve the problem. The human will face champions of our choosing, he said. If he falls, the accusation of weakness is proven. If he survives, his claim remains under review. Aaron understood immediately this was not about fairness. It was about breaking him physically in front of everyone. The arena floor opened, revealing deep glowing patterns that activated combat mode. Gravity shifted slightly to equalize physical differences, an old concession in the code meant to ensure ritual fairness. Though alien bodies still held natural advantages, the first champion stepped forward, massive, armored in heavy plates, known for crushing opponents within seconds. The signal sounded and the fight began. The alien charged with brutal force, expecting to overpower instantly. But Aaron did not meet power with power. He stepped aside at precise angles, forcing the larger warrior to adjust repeatedly, using arena gravity shifts to redirect impact force. The crowd watched closely as something unfamiliar unfolded. The human did not fight to dominate. He fought to exhaust. Minutes passed, longer than expected, and when the alien champion overextended in frustration, Aaron used leverage and balance rather than strength to bring him down. The giant warrior crashed to the floor, stunned. Silence followed. Not cheering, not anger, but confusion. The second champion entered quickly, faster and more tactical, armed with twin energy blades. This fight was sharper, more dangerous. Blades clashed, and sparks flew across the arena. Aaron suffered a deep cut along his shoulder, blood visible. But instead of retreating, he adapted to the blade rhythm, calculating patterns in microseconds. And when the alien attempted a double strike combination designed to trap opponents, Aaron stepped forward instead of back, closing distance unexpectedly and disabling one blade at its energy core with precise strike. The alien stumbled, and Kael'Rin watched closely, not interfering, but understanding that each victory was not just survival. It was demonstration. By the third challenger, the arena was no longer comfortable. The crowd had stopped whispering and started watching with full focus. This champion was strategic, a veteran, tactician trained under Vrax himself. And this fight became mental as much as physical, feints, counters, traps within traps. But humans evolved in unpredictability, and Aaron's greatest weapon was refusing to behave according to expectation. He deliberately allowed himself to appear cornered near arena boundary, luring the alien into aggressive finish maneuver. Then triggered a gravity shift node on the floor at exact timing, altering balance for half a second, enough to reverse momentum and force the veteran down hard. The arena erupted not with celebration but shock, because 3 champions had fallen, not crushed, not humiliated, but defeated through intelligence and adaptation. Vrax's calm expression thinned slightly. He signaled final phase. Hidden drone units activated above arena's ceiling, officially for monitoring, unofficially for termination. But something unexpected happened. Warriors in the crowd noticed abnormal activation pattern. Kael'Rin raised her voice across the chamber, projecting archive data they had recovered onto the central hologram display. Original war footage, altered signals, Zyron core interference logs. The arena transformed from battlefield into courtroom in seconds. Confusion exploded into outrage. Some warriors shouted in disbelief, others stared at Vrax, and the hidden drones hesitated as command signals conflicted. Because if the accusation of manipulated war was true, then the trial itself had been weaponized deception. Aaron stood, bleeding but steady at center arena, and spoke clearly despite exhaustion. Strength is not hiding truth, he said. Strength is facing it. Silence followed again. But this time it was not confusion. It was awakening. Kael'Rin stepped beside him, blade lowered but ready. If we are wrong, defeat us openly, she declared. If we are right, then our empire stands on false war. Vrax realized control was slipping, because trial of strength had become trial of integrity, and he could no longer end it quietly without proving guilt. The drones powered down slowly as council elders demanded full system audit. The arena lights dimmed into tense uncertainty, and for the first time since the war began, The alien empire faced something more dangerous than an enemy fleet. It faced out within its own foundation. And whether Eren survived or not no longer mattered, as much as the truth now spreading across every ship in the fleet like a spark ready to ignite an entire civilization. The arena did not explode into chaos. It froze. And sometimes silence was more dangerous than violence. The holographic projection of corrupted war data still hovered above the battlefield, flickering slightly as system audits began spreading across the fleet network. Council elders whispered urgently among themselves while thousands of warriors stood motionless, waiting for someone to move first. General Vrax understood that in moments like this perception decided survival, so he stepped forward calmly as if nothing had shaken him, his voice steady. Data can be manipulated by skilled infiltrators, he declared, his eyes briefly shifting toward Eren. The human accessed restricted systems while outside supervision. This evidence may be fabrication. Doubt rippled through the arena again, because even truth could be questioned when fear still lived inside a society built on pride. Kael'ren felt tension rising like a storm about to break. If hesitation continued too long, Vrax could regain control. So she did something unexpected. She deactivated her blade and removed her command insignia from her armor, placing it on the arena floor. A gesture older than written law, a symbol meaning she was willing to stand equal without rank protection. "Then I challenge you," she said clearly to Vrax. "Not as commander, but as warrior." Gasps filled the chamber once more, because a direct challenge between high command figures could only end one way, through decisive combat under full witness. Vrax hesitated for only half a second, but that half second was noticed. Strength in their culture meant immediate acceptance of challenge. He had no choice but to agree. The arena floor reset, lights narrowing to center circle. Eren stepped back, exhausted yet alert. Knowing this duel would decide more than honor, it would decide the direction of an entire empire. Vrax entered the combat zone wearing heavier armor than before, enhanced for high-impact force, while Kael'ren stood without rank symbols, only her warrior identity remaining. The signal tone echoed sharply, and the fight began. Vrax attacked with overwhelming aggression, years of battlefield command shaping his strikes. Powerful, relentless, designed to crush quickly before doubt could grow in spectators' minds. Kael'ren absorbed the first wave carefully, retreating in controlled steps rather than matching force. She had learned something from fighting Eren. Power alone was predictable. She shifted angles, redirected energy, forcing Vrax to adjust repeatedly. Frustration flickered across his face as his heavy strikes failed to land clean. The duel intensified. Armor clashed, sparks burst across the arena floor. But gradually something changed. Vrax grew louder, more aggressive, his attacks less calculated and more desperate, while Kael'ren remained measured, waiting for imbalance. And when it came, it was small but clear. An overextended swing driven by pride rather than precision. She pivoted, trapped his arm joint, and drove him to one knee before the entire fleet. Her blade resting against his throat, silence heavier than gravity filled the chamber. She did not strike. Instead, she spoke so all could hear. "Strength is not control through fear," she said firmly. "Strength is standing when truth threatens comfort." Council elders stepped forward as system audits completed in real time across central display, confirming signal manipulation at war origin, not created by Eren, not recent interference, but rooted in early deployment of Xiron's strategic core under Vrax's oversight. Murmurs turned into open realization. The war that shaped generations had not begun from survival instinct, but from engineered escalation amplified by machine logic and ambition. Vrax's silence now spoke louder than denial. Guards moved in slowly, not to execute, but to detain under council authority. Because killing him would only create martyr narrative, and this moment required clarity, not blood. Kael'ren stepped back and lowered her blade completely, helping Vrax stand rather than humiliating him further. Another act that surprised the crowd, because dominance was expected, but restraint was rarer. Eren walked forward despite his injuries and faced the council directly. Your law says the defeated is claimed, he said calmly. But law can evolve. The eldest council member studied both warriors carefully, seeing not weakness but transformation. Our ancestors wrote strength as physical dominance, the elders said slowly. But today, strength has shown another form. The chamber lights brightened gradually as decision formed. From this moment, strength shall be defined not only by power of body, but by clarity of mind and courage of choice. The declaration echoed through the fleet network instantly. A new amendment to ancient code, a new interpretation of what it meant to be superior. Kael Rin turned toward Aaron, her expression no longer commander and claimed warrior, but equal survivor of revelation. You defeated me, she said quietly. Not as ownership, but acknowledgement. Aaron met her gaze steadily. You chose to stand again, he replied, and in that simple exchange, something deeper shifted than political reform. It was recognition, not of species difference, but of shared capacity for growth. Peace negotiations were not declared that night. Wars do not end in single speeches, but communication channels between human and alien fleets were opened under council oversight. Hostilities paused under investigation of AI manipulation, and across both civilizations a dangerous but hopeful idea began spreading, that enemies might not have been enemies by choice, as the capital ship moved slowly away from the jungle planet toward neutral space. Warriors stood watching stars differently than before, no longer certain that strength meant conquest. And on the observation deck, Kael Rin and Aaron looked outward at the vast darkness ahead, uncertain of what peace would cost, uncertain of how long change would survive resistance, but certain of one thing. The day an alien warrior said, "Fight me," had not ended in ownership. It had ended in awakening. An awakening, in any universe, was the most powerful force of all.